Hello viewers, I am C Pal Singh, President of NISSMAT, that is National Institute of Security, Safety, Management and Applied Technology. NISSMAT was started in the year 1990. We have been initially dealing with subject of security, safety, technology and management, but for the last 3 years, we have launched a program of having website program, also having a program on various international issues, national issues, etc. Most of these programs were in the form of casting on the internet, but in the last few months, we started having podcasts, having interviews of the intellectual and erudite speaker on various subjects. The subjects covered by us are all over. You can mention any topical subject, management subject, any subject concerning safety, security, academics, politics. All these subjects have been covered by us from time to time. We have a very big number of viewers with us, a huge number of viewers with us. Further, this organization has gradually developed into a think tank organization. We have at the moment with us around 100 scholars who have contributed to us or who continue contributing to us either in the form of websites or in the form of our platform or in the form of podcasts. Today, I have with me a speaker on the subject of growing radicalization, criminalization of Rohingyas in Bangladesh and its impact on India. The speaker is Dr. Sanchita Bhattacharya. She is a research scholar in the New Delhi-based Institute for Conflict Management. She writes extensively on socio-political issues, particularly concerning Pakistan and Afghanistan. Her articles and her commentaries have been published in East Asia Forum, Australia Outlook, the Kabul Times, First Post, and the Quint, etc. She is an erudite scholar and a remarkable speaker, and has written a number of articles on the present situation in Bangladesh in the recent past. According to her, I quote her, Bangladesh is in the eye of storm. In one of her articles, she has said that Bangladesh is the eye of storm. So let us now discuss with her and let's have her views as to what has she to say about Bangladesh criminalization and how is it going to impact India. Now, the subject as such, I'd like to introduce. The Bangladesh has seen significant political upheavals in the recent past, dominated by Bangladesh Awami League and the Bangladesh Nationalist Party. Further, it has witnessed a significant rise in radical elements also. Recently, the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh has received political and social acceptance in Bangladesh. This is an obvious trend towards growing radicalization. The influx of refugees fleeing prosecution in Myanmar and their stay inside Bangladesh has added to the pressures already prevailing in the complex socio-political landscape in Bangladesh. Criminal activities of Rohingyas camps, which are located in Bangladesh, has increased the criminal activities. Further, there is a large number of people who are involved in drug smuggling, human trafficking, illegal arms trade, And violent clashes have also added to this all complex situation in Bangladesh. The present government in Bangladesh has lifted the ban on JEL, and this shall also escalate further, to some extent at least, the radicalization in Bangladesh. The purpose of JEL is to establish an Islamic welfare state. I mean, they call it an Islamic welfare state in Bangladesh, but the word Islamic is very much there, must note. And in case it happens, what will be its impact on India? In the podcast today, we shall all discuss the prevailing situations in Bangladesh, the growing radicalization, criminalization, and the likely impact on India. We shall discuss all these issues with Dr. Sanchita Bhattacharya. Let me start this dialogue or discussion or podcast with a question to you, Dr. Bhattacharya. Reports indicate that about 11 million groups from the refugee camps of Rohingya in Bangladesh are operating in various areas. A number of incidents, I think in recent part, more than 30 incidents involving violence have been reported from these Rohingya camps. Further, a large number of people, say about 30 to 50, were killed also in these clashes. Over and above, there are a lot of other situations in Bangladesh which has created a very complex situation. Could you please elaborate which are the prominent groups and their brief operations in Bangladesh, and what were the reasons for this large-scale violence in the recent past? Dr. Sanchita, please.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me once again in this. I hope that our dialogue will be engaging, and I'm really thankful to you for this invitation. As you have rightly mentioned, that Bangladesh right now is going through a very unstable social, political, and economic scenario. The country is in sort of an upheaval where there are n number of factors with their respective impacts on the society, on the politics, as well on the economy of the country. So with respect to the Rohingya situation right now, as you mentioned, there are 11 militant groups which are operating right now in various refugee camps within the two major districts of Cox's Bazar and Bandarban. So apart from the two major Rohingya militant organizations like ARSA and RSO, Arakan Salvation Army, and Rohingya Solidarity organization, there are other gangs, namely like the Rohingya, like the Master Munna gang, then Nabi Hussain gang, Islami Mahaz gang, then Chakma robber gang, Jabu robber gang, Salman Shah robber gang. These are the few names amongst these 11 groups which right now are operating, as you have rightly mentioned. And the reason behind the increase of violence, there are like 4 to 5 major reasons. I'm going through these reasons one by one. First is the turf war. Turf war for supremacy amongst all these organizations, all these groups, which want to get the maximum profit out of the illegal business. As you just mentioned, illegal business of like arms trafficking, human trafficking, sex slaving, and there are other like narco trafficking and all. So all these groups have their continuous turf war with each other for gaining as much profit as they want from their operational zones within the Rohingya refugee camp areas. Now, secondly, these groups have their own operational zones, as I was mentioning. For example, with regards to ARSA, it is active in the camps of Ukhia, Balukhali, Palongkhali. Then you have RSO and Munna gang, which is operating in Ukhia and Palongkhali. Then there is another gang like Islami Mahaz, which is active in Vaikong camp. Now, very interestingly, one can say that in a major refugee camp of Noyapara, there are about 6 functional gangs which operate. Namely, you can say Putia gang, Zakir gang, Salman Shah gang, Nabi Hussain gang, and Khalik gang. So they have their own zones, which they have divided amongst themselves. But instead of these divisions, they try to outbeat each other. to get maximum profit. So this is one of the reasons. Secondly, you can say they want to maintain their own sphere of influences. They want to maintain their own zones for the prosperity of their own gang members, for the prosperity of their own cadres. And another very important reason behind the working and the animosity amongst these gangs within the refugee concentration zone is the continuation of criminal activity. These gangs are not only involved in terror activities, but they are extremely involved in various kinds of criminal activity. And for that, they want a continuous inflow of cadres and gang members, which they recruit from their own operational zone areas. So this is one of the major reasons why the violence is increasing. And right now, according to one of the estimates in last month, like January 2025, the Rohingyas in refugee camps of Bangladesh, their population has increased to 1.3 million.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and it is the estimate of the current Bangladeshi government. It is an alarming situation right now in Bangladesh, and the average birth rate is 30,000 every year.
Oh,
yes.
So increasing population.
Exactly. So it is actually working. These refugee camps are actually working as a huge catchment area for all these criminal gangs and militant organizations for the continuation of their own disruptive criminal and terror activities for the coming years. And they are also collecting fund. Not only they are recruiting from these refugee areas, they are also collecting fund from these people.
Sanchita, excuse me for interruption.
Sure, sir.
There's such a big concentration of Rohingyas into Bangladesh, and also setting up such a large number of camps, creating all these problems, integrated problems you have mentioned, is of course a problem for Bangladesh itself.
Yes, sir.
A problem for Bangladesh itself. Despite all that, still these Rohingyas continue to stay in Bangladesh even during the times of the previous regime. And they're continuing now also there will increase activities. My point is, first of all, how and why they were allowed to come here into Bangladesh. Of course, the indirect infiltration and direct infiltration and ingress into Bangladesh, that is acceptable. But to set up these refugee camps without any control is creating problem for itself as far as Bangladesh is concerned. Second, my main point is that these prominent militant Rohingyas groups, just like you mentioned, the operation in Bangladesh are by Rohingya groups like Rohingya Solidarity Organization, then Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, and Rohingya Solidarity Organization, etc., etc. Now, it is suspected that they are having links with Al-Qaida in the Indian subcontinent and also with JEL. So please elaborate during this further elaboration about Rohingyas as to what could be the aim and how they are likely to help some terrorist organization and groups already operating in India. So you please elaborate on these 2 points. Their ingress and they're having camps in Rohingya camps in Bangladesh and problems for Bangladesh itself. And what is the outflow of this problem in terms of their having links with Al-Qaida and other terrorist organizations in India?
Sir, actually, it is a very complicated situation. And if we go through about the ingressing of these Rohingyas into Bangladesh, it is a very complicated situation as such, as we all know how the problem with the LTTE started. It was again a faulty British policy of the cultivation laborers which were brought from Tamil Nadu to Sri Lanka. The same thing is applicable in Myanmar also. For rice cultivation, a section of the population from erstwhile Bengal, British Bengal, was uprooted and they were transported to the current Arakan region, which is the Rakhine province of Myanmar. So these Rohingyas have antecedents basically in the present-day Bangladesh. So their roots, their language, their culture, their ethnicity is more closer to Bangladeshi than a Myanmari. So they have their cultural continuity, their ethnic continuity, and also their religious continuity. And why they were given shelter? First of all, I would my understanding is they were given shelter because of the concept of Islamic Ummah. Yes, because my fellow Muslim brother or fellow Muslim sister has been subjugated. She or he is suffering under a totalitarian regime. So it is my moral and religious compulsion to give refuge to those people. This was one part of the story, and another part of the story is, if we see, the border between Bangladesh and Myanmar is extremely porous, as you have rightly mentioned, and it is also geographically inhospitable in the sense it's a riverine territory. So it becomes very difficult for the BGB, which is Bangladesh Border Guard, to have a constant vigil into the ingressing of the Rohingyas within the territory of Bangladesh. So these two reasons actually worked against Bangladesh in long run.
I see.
And they have been coming in waves.
Yeah.
This is, and the majority of influx has happened post 2017. Before that also, Rohingyas were coming in waves and influx, like in 2011 they came, 2013 they came, 2080s actually they started coming when they were defranchised. The citizenship was taken by the government of Myanmar in 1982. So since that time, they have been coming. So this is one of the reasons, the political, religious, and ethnic and cultural reason behind their ingressing. And as you were like mentioning the groups like ARSA and RSO, the aim of ARSA and RSO is to defend and protect the Rohingyas against the state of Myanmar, which is repressive in nature, according to them. And they work as a beacon of hope for the Rohingya Muslims. And they want to establish a separate Rohingya state within the Arakan region, that is the present Rakhine like province of Myanmar. That is their aim. Now, how it is impacting India, it is very, in an obtuse way, it is impacting India. As we all know that the terror group, as I was mentioning, like these terror groups, they overtly say that they want to establish a separate homeland for the people of Arakan, who are the Rohingyas. But at the same time, these refugee camps also act as a breeding ground for terror recruitment. Like we know that ABT, Ansarullah Bangla team, which has a completely anti-Indian stance. It has been very vocal about its anti-Indian stance, is now trying to recruit like cadres within the Rohingya refugee camps. And these cadres are trained to infiltrate India and act as sleeper cells within the Indian territory.
So that is a very difficult situation.
Exactly.
The activation of sleeper cells in India, it is very difficult to detect. The sleeper cells keep sleeping every day, and all of a sudden they are concentrating people around them, and then they indulge in activities. And then when the terrorists are interrogated, these terrorists or the organization interrogated, then we go back to that, they have a sleeper cell. Now I understand that that's how these people also indirectly infiltrate there, and then they lie low. And they lie low as a sleeper cell and go on cultivating their own cadre or their own organization within the country to create problem for India. Carry on, Sanchita.
So this is one of the reasons why, it would be dangerous for India in long run. And we have also seen like arrests of various Rohingya groups within many states of India, not only the bordering states of Tripura or West Bengal, but as far as Rajasthan or as far as Puducherry. So arrests of these Rohingya groups, people might say that, what has happened that they have been arrested is not a big deal. But in reality, it is a big deal because it shows the geographical stretch of presence of Rohingya population within India. Not only in the border areas, but as I was mentioning, as far as Rajasthan. So it is an alarming situation for our own domestic security.
Precisely, but I'm not asking you a question, but reacting to it. That whatever happens now, recent things which happen in Delhi, whatever happens in somewhere, one government against other government, I'm not referring to the government. When they are unable to solve the problem, they'll attribute that these are the Rohingyas who have gathered there. These are the Rohingyas who have been allowed to come in. The Rohingyas have ingress from West Bengal. as you said, it is at the time of partition. Some of them who were culturally and socially akin to naturally Bangladesh, when Bengal, they got migrated to that side, or they were in demarcation, they went to that territory. And therefore, they have socio-economic ties also in Bangladesh. But to tell them that the infiltration of Rohingyas into India now, you can also already will have impact, we'll check them now. But whatever has happened. And now these activities, how are they, these armed groups, the Rohingyas, etc., which I mentioned, they are getting into it. And the illegal infiltration of arms also is there, linked with the prevailing violence and extremism activities in Bangladesh also. Further, the human trafficking, as you said, that is also there. The illegal arm trade is also there on the increase. These smuggled arms are brought from Myanmar, they say. Is there any authentic information as to how the smuggling of arms from Myanmar is undertaken? The implication of such smuggled arms getting into the hands of terrorist organization in India cannot be ruled out. Therefore, it's a very important issue that what is the process, how they smuggle these arms from Myanmar to Bangladesh or Myanmar to India itself. Besides the terrain and other things, because these Rohingyas are also supposed to be involved in this smuggling. Sanchita, please.
So, sir, regarding authentic source, I would say there are not much any reports, but we can go through the statements, made by few officials and the ministers. Like with the previous regime of Awami League, the former Home Minister, who was Asaduzzzaman Khan, last year somewhere in first quarter of 2024, he stated that Rohingya camps in Bangladesh have become hub of international terrorists.
Oh.
Yes. So it is a very major statement when the Home Minister of a country is saying such things. It is of utmost importance for not only Bangladesh, but also for the neighboring countries of India and Myanmar. Secondly, recently, after this caretaker government has taken the reign of Bangladesh, the Armed Police Battalion commander, he's of a DIG rank, Syed Harun Rashid, has stated that it is true that there are weapons inside the Rohingya camps. So these two statements are very important. One, an additional DIG is giving a statement and former Home Minister has given a statement. That means there are presence of illegal arms within the Rohingya camps. As of now, we don't know how many arms are there, what are the varieties of arms and all. So this much information so far is available with us. If you go with the authenticity. Like there might be thousands of reports, but most of these reports are based on speculation or from, a third-party source. But these two people saying that the camps have become hub of international terrorism and there are indeed weapons inside the camps, these two are very alarming statements with respect to the situation right now.
With this alarming situation, as you said, in the Bangladesh, particularly the Rohingya camps, and you said the authentic information can be said that there are weapons inside the Rohingya camps. As to other authentic information is there are sources who indicate that the weapons have been coming. But authentic information and authentic reports are that they are there inside the Rohingya camps. So how the present regime in Bangladesh is trying to curb the criminal activities of Rohingyas. After all, it also upsets the entire socio-economic and socio-political scenario in Bangladesh also. With these people, if they are not considered as acceptable and part of the upheaval which has been created in the Bangladesh, if they are, let us say, they are not totally involved, let us say they are involved indirectly, but these Rohingya camps and these Rohingya criminal activities which are going on, they are also affecting adversely the present Bangladesh or the previous Bangladesh government. How are they, the present regime or the previous regime has dealt with this problem to curb their criminal activities of these Rohingyas and increase something like their police presence or their enlisting cooperation, etc., from Myanmar so that they are not allowed to come there. Can you elaborate as to what measures are being taken or have been taken by the Bangladesh government?
Sure, sir. Two things happened. As we know, there has been a regime change in Bangladesh in August last year, and at the same time, there has been an increase in the activity of Arakan army within Myanmar. Now, Arakan army is different from ARSA and RSO. ARSA and RSO work for the establishment of Rohingya state, and Arakan army is a Buddhist insurgent group who fight these two Islamist terror organizations. So last quarter of 2024, we see an immense escalation of violent activities performed by the Arakan army within the Rohingya populated areas of Arakan, the Rakhine state. So amidst this escalation of violence orchestrated by Arakan army, there has been a fresh incursion of Rohingyas into Bangladesh, around 60,000.
Oh.
They have entered in the month of December.
Mm-hmm.
And Rohingyas are entering through at least 25 to 30 points along the Cox's Bazar and Bandarban border areas I was mentioning, including Jadimora, Dadamia, Keruntali, Balukhali, and Anjumpara. These are amongst the 25 to 30 points. These 5-6 points are the major areas from which the Rohingyas are intruding into Bangladesh, and it is happening post attack of Arakan army in the Rakhine state. Now, what the Bangladeshi government is doing right now.
Yeah.
So therefore, under the present current regime, the Bangladesh border BGB, the Bangladesh border guard, it has intensified its vigilance in Myanmar border areas. There have been frequent arrests of illegal Rohingya groups, which have been done in the districts of Bandarban and Cox's Bazar. And also the Coast Guard, Bangladesh Coast Guard, has been activated to push back as much of Rohingya people who are coming by boat. As we know, they also have a tendency of using sea routes. The Rohingyas also use sea routes from Myanmar to the Southeast Asian countries. Aapko jis pata hoga, in Indonesia, Malaysia, frequently they try to incur into those zones also. So not only the BGB, Bangladesh border guard, but also the coast guards have been given instructions, strict instructions to curb these intrusions. They can't, have a 100% success rate in doing so, but yes, they are doing their best. Secondly, a very important development which has taken place is the Foreign Affairs Advisor, Muhammad Tawhid Hussain. Recently, he has called for a roadmap of repatriation of Rohingyas to the Rakhine state in Myanmar. He is having a dialogue with the current Myanmari counterpart to chalk out a plan of systematic repatriation of these people back to Myanmar. And there have also been an intensification of rescue operation with respect to human traffickers. Like today only in the newspaper, we have seen like 60 Rohingyas have been abducted by Arakan army. There is a bordering river called NEF. So these were fishermen basically, and the Arakan army has abducted 60 of them. So it is also a very frequent news which happens. And I would like to end this point by saying that the Intelligence Agency of Bangladesh, which is Directorate General of Forces Intelligence, DGFI, yes, it met with the Rohingya representatives to provide the training of weapons and intelligence to fight against the Arakan army.
I see.
Within the refugee camps of Ukhia. Now, this will also have, I would say, it's not a very conducive way of dealing with the situation, but because if you give militant training, if you give arms training, if you give intelligence gathering training to an already radicalized group, it will definitely have a boomerang effect on you in coming future.
It's definitely a boomerang effect because you have elaborated quite a lot. One point which I like to have clarification. The Rohingya camps which are already there, which already have arms, I mean, considering the length and breadth of a particular camp, I mean, average length and breadth, is it not possible for the government of Bangladesh to reinforce something like setting up of new special police stations near around this? Or is it not possible to have some sort of checks to go inside, have cross checks, as happens in various terrorist affected areas in our country, we go to a particular concentration camp which has been flying or which we are suspected to be flying. Then we go inside and conduct certain raids without their knowledge and are able to seize. What are the problem? I mean, if the problem is also as acute for the present government in Bangladesh as it was for the previous government, and it's certain measures like setting up special police station near Rohingya camps, or raiding the Rohingya camps and catch hold of them, or starting some sort of, investigations against such Rohingyas who are already there. Because the question is, if you contain one part, the infiltration, the second part, the ingress is the second part. The second part is, of course, you said that they are having they are having cooperation, seeking cooperation for Myanmar, and there are negotiations going on as to how to stop their ingress into Bangladesh. But as for the present scenario, those who are already there, is it not possible? Is it inefficient police force, or is it not willingness of the people to do it, or they want, all right, let the Rohingyas radical go ahead and impact the other neighboring countries? I mean, something like that. It doesn't sound that good for a country which also has been there in existence for the last so many years, irrespective of the present change, that they have not been able to check. I don't deny that we have also not been able to check totally terrorism in our country. But we have certain means and ways by which we get intelligence and we get into those places and try to catch them, have investigation, create deterrent, etc. My point is the present strength of Rohingyas, the second volume I would call of the Rohingyas inside Bangladesh. Why? And I mean, is it intentional, or is it some other reason, or is it because of having that Islamic unity?
So,
I'm being a little.
yeah, no, actually, sir, these Rohingya refugee camps, no, they are just like no-go zones.
Oh,
You see, there are hospitals, there are like makeshift hospitals, makeshift schools, which are funded by international organizations and by international aid. But basically, these are extremely violent, criminalized no-go zones. And often you will see these gangs, are especially RSO and ARSA, they have continuous tussle and continuous violence, and they are killing each other's members and cadres. So it is an extremely volatile environment. And as you rightly mentioned, it is actually on the part of the Bangladesh police or Bangladesh Rapid Action Force or BGB, but they are unable to contain the violence. They are unable to keep an eye, to keep a check. Sometimes they do, like they have their own, operations. They would arrest few of the ARSA cadres, they would arrest few of the RSO militants. But this is also very random. It happens in a very random fashion. There is no organized way of checking these refugee camps from the point of security, what is happening inside. So this is one of the reasons why there has been so much of escalation.
Oh, I see. But the prevailing activities, as you have elaborated, and also the problems in Bangladesh can certainly have an impact on India.
Yes.
The impact can be, if they get into the Indian side, it will have a problem of a demography in Indian state will change close to the Bangladesh. And also it will raise a lot of security concerns as far as these states close to Bangladesh are concerned, or even going deep into other states in India. How do you assess the above concerns for India and its effort? What effort should be made so as to at least not isolate, at least insulate India to some extent to these threats?
Sir, as I've mentioned earlier about the involvement of ABT, Ansarullah Bangla team, with the Rohingyas, which might have, if ABT gets success in recruitment and training and intrusion of these radicalized groups within India, it will have a threat for India. But most importantly, as we Bangladesh watchers have been seeing since like last 7 to 8 years, there have been a clandestine activity of ISI inside the Rohingya camps, which is more alarming for us. Recently, ISI has been active in bringing together about 4 Rohingya insurgent groups. And it has happened after the taking over of the interim government. Like sometime in the last quarter of 2024, there has been an alliance with the involvement of ISI amongst 4 active Rohingya groups, including ARSA, RSO, Islami Mahaz, and Arakan Rohingya. So this will have definitely an alarming impact on India's security in coming months and in coming years. And they are trying, the ISI and its like cohorts are actually trying to radicalize these Rohingyas, keeping in mind their own, Islamic State. They are giving the carrot of Islamic State to these 4 organizations and their cadres. But in long run, definitely this carrot of Islamic State will have a strong negative impact on India. And ISI was assisted, and more unfortunately, amongst these events, ISI has been assisted by the present Bangladeshi government in its endeavor. So we can see a collusion of common interest of both of ISI in one hand, current Bangladeshi regime on the other hand, and these 4 strong radicalized, criminalized and militant organizations who are operating within the Rohingya refugee areas. And second, and another important point is that in past, many of the reports have suggested, even during the time of Awami League regime, they have suggested that Rohingyas are getting support from terror organizations like Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jamaat-e-Mujahideen Bangladesh. And Lashkar has been working with its Falai Insaniyat. It has an FIF, so-called NGO, which is the frontal phase of Lashkar-e-Toiba, and generally they work at various societal levels. So you must be remembering, few years back there has been a flood did occur in Bangladesh, and during that time this FIF, which is the frontal Lashkar Lashkar NGO, has been very active, especially in the Rohingya refugee areas. And many reports came out that these people, these Lashkar militants in the guise of FIF social workers, they were recruiting Rohingyas within their own fold. So this is also one of the major events which we have to keep in mind while discussing Rohingyas with respect to India's security situation. And for India, I would like to say that we have to be very cautious, because ISI definitely has the capacity to transform the refugee camps into hotbeds of terror and making them accessible to radical Islamist outfits, which will help Pakistan in its anti-India operation within the Indian territory.
I understand, that's very clearly pointed out, that with the impact on India at present or in the coming years, unless these activities are curbed inside Bangladesh, is likely to be very challenging. LET has been a constant source of trouble for India in various ways, as you know. And LET was the main organization which was helping even terrorism in other states of India, in Punjab or other states, they always do. And since their NGO is there, so they will be able to have some sort of a hide and seek arrangement to go under the garb of NGO and get money, etc., and then funding some terrorist organization inside India also. My point is that all this is a very gloomy situation. I mean, forecast is quite gloomy. Now, in addition to other effects which are likely to have on India because of the situation, prevailing situation in Bangladesh, I feel it is going to have a lot of strain on the resources in India, because the illegal infiltration of Rohingyas is going to be a great burden for the BSF or for other border security forces in India, because their infiltration has to be checked by our side. There's strain on their resources. Then it may, as LAT is involved, it may have impact on J&K and northern state. Rurality has been very prominent as far as some northern states, particularly in J&K. Then it also has got sort of intelligence challenges. Now, tracking radicalized Rohingyas and preventing them to have any potential terror plots in India will be a very growing challenge for India for times to come. Then, as you rightly pointed out, the growth of ISI influence also is likely to affect India. So all this plus militancy already to some extent prevailing in areas close to border in West Bengal, and radicalization of some Indian Muslims also, who may not be radical today. These are all very serious implications which are there on India. So India has to be very careful, and we have to see with a lot of concern all this impact which is going to have. You would like to elaborate something more on the implications on India? Anything more?
Sir, if you remember, like just before the Maharashtra election, there has been a report which was published by TISS, okay, Tata Institute of Social Sciences, I suppose. And it was a very alarming in the sense that this report has showed an unprecedented increase in illegal Bangladeshi and Rohingyas within Mumbai metropolitan area, which is impacting the socio-political changes of the metropolis. So, bordering West Bengal, Tripura is the farthest eastern extent of the country, and Mumbai is at the western end of the country. So again, I would say we can see the geographical stretch, not only the geographical stretch, but the increase in the influx of illegal migrants to the point that now TISS has been forced to come up with a report. And the report and the findings of the report are disturbing not only for the society, but also for the Indian democracy. Right. We have to be very much cautious. When we claim to be the largest democratic country of the world, we have to be cautious about the measures in how we would protect our democracy, how we would protect the spirit of the democracy. And a radicalized population with no faith in democracy will definitely have it will definitely challenge the entire working of the government at both provincial and also at the federal level in coming years. If we don't put some effort, some positive effort in dealing with this situation, and as you were mentioning about this LET being operational in J&K, another very disturbing feature is the presence of Rohingyas not only in Jammu but also in Ladakh. So that is also alarming for us. Because, people coming inside the country, taking shelter in the country, this is one thing. You have faith in the society of your host nation. You have faith in the political environment of your host nation. But if you are working against the socio-political environment of your host nation, then it creates problem for the citizens of the country.
Quite right. And I think you can also think of something else. The use of madrasas for extension of their radical, the madrasas are basically the radical preachers in some places, these madrasas. And I understand that the Islamic preachers are supporting Rohingyas militancy. This is understood that some of the Islamic preachers, through their madrasas and etc., are supporting the Rohingyas militancy in Bangladesh. So then, in addition to that, the communal violence which took place in the few months back, because they wanted to turn out all the Hindu population or Hindu traders, etc. The communal violence and growing tensions over Rohingyas could lead to some, I think, righteous situation, if not riots, in sensitive regions in India also. Because there is a sort of, they're saying, though, our people have suffered from this communal virus, etc. in Bangladesh, there may be reaction in India. So the growing tensions over these Rohingyas and this Islamic preachers which are doing a radicalization, they can have a very bad effect on the Indian political climate and Indian social climate, because there may be reaction that all right, there's a violence this side, why not violence this side? So this can lead to risk of communal violence and communal rights even in India. So growing tensions over Rohingyas in Bangladesh could lead to a lot of sensitive situations, creating a lot of sensitive situations in India. What are your views on this? What are your views?
Sir, creating communal violence, I think the time has gone as of now, because if it would have happened, it would have happened last year.
Yeah.
When the situation was escalating and it was really very, difficult inside Bangladesh. I think we have tackled it quite favorably for us, especially in West Bengal and Assam. These two states, and also in Tripura to some extent, I would say these three states, the situation could have been much worse. So far, I don't think we will have any, communal
repercussions,
repercussion or communal violence, because that time is gone. But the problem is not the, sporadic violence. The problem is systematic intrusion. All these intrusions from Myanmar to Bangladesh, then Bangladesh to India, are extremely systematic. They know the routes, they know the people, they know the midpoints from where the timing, the season. It is also seasonal in nature. The migration is based on time, it is based on season, and it is an extremely, it doesn't happen. It is definitely a humanitarian crisis, but it is also a very well thought out agenda. As we all know, how the refugees travel, how not only the refugees, I won't say them refugees, these are illegal infiltrators. And as you were mentioning about these madrasas and all, actually, I have done my PhD on madrasas. So the thing is that recent report, I'm digressing a bit. The few recent reports have suggested that in the Indo-Nepal border area, which is the Tarai zone, there has been an increase in madrasas, and it is suspected that this increase has been escalated by ISI. Now, as we all know, ISI sleeper cells are also very much present in Nepal. This can be actually a very interesting study if anybody wants to pursue it, the working of ISI within Nepal. So all these bordering madrasa establishment in the Tarai zone, in between India and Nepal, actually they can have a security, they can have a security impact for India in long run. The same was there in Assam also. If you travel through the border areas of Assam, bordering Bangladesh, you will see n number of madrasas coming up. Construction of n number of madrasas, like in one district, maybe you will see around 500 to 600 madrasas, if I'm not wrong. So there has been an escalation, and I will still say that no concrete report has yet come to directly link madrasas with the radical organizations. But yes, there might be a possibility that madrasas can be abused and used as a political weapon against the democratic structure of any country, whether it is Nepal or India or Bangladesh. We have seen in Bangladesh actually how vigilante these madrasa students can be, and how they are attacking the Hindu houses, or how they are attacking the police stations. And there have been like verified reports suggesting that mob violence and lynching and killing have been orchestrated by local madrasa students, which is a fact in Bangladesh. But as of now, we are not very much sure about how they will operate in India, especially in the border areas of Bangladesh.
It means you tend to agree with me that madrasas do have or did have influence as well as Bangladesh.
Yes.
But some reports indicated, I've read somewhere, that these madrasas, the preachers, have also started going inside the Rohingya camps. That's what my point was. But if that
Mm-hmm.
is so, then the potential is much more because these Rohingyas are there already and they have got certain connection with the radical elements like Al-Qaida, LAT, etc. And if the madrasas are also set up inside this refugee camps, are not set up, but these preachers are sent there, that is going to be very explosive situation as well because there are a huge number of Rohingyas present inside Bangladesh. This was my point. In any case, you have touched the issues. I'll come to one last point, which probably we have not discussed. That is, besides the condition of this turmoil due to radicalization and criminalization of Rohingyas, the clashes and violence in the region of Chittagong Hills, in hilly tract of Chittagong, is also considerably increased in the recent past, they say. And this also is affecting partially, if not totally, the peace and harmony presently maintained to some extent in Bangladesh. And it can have repercussions indirect, which you have also mentioned, on India. Will you be able to throw some light on the activities of Rohingyas, etc., vis-a-vis the activities happening in Chittagong Hills?
So, Chittagong Hill Tract CHT is a bit different from Rohingyas because there is a tussle between the Bengali Muslims and the tribal Buddhist. So that is the line of contention, and most of these disputes are land related. Like the tribal indigenous Buddhist population, they claim that these Muslims are intruding into our zones and they are trying to grab our land. So there has been an accord, CHT accord, and these tribal people officially at the government level have been given few perks so that their indigenous identity, their indigenous minority status, their indigenous religion can be safeguarded by the government. So this is the part what the government has done, previous Awami League government has done. But in reality, as we have seen post Yunus taking power, and there have been series of attacks on the minorities, on Hindus, on Buddhists. At the same time, there have been series of attacks on these indigenous people as well. So there has been a flaring up of violence within the CHT because of this political and social uncertainty of Bangladesh. It has impacted them in a very negative way. So their situation has worsened, I would say. In these 7 to 8 months, their situation have worsened. And you must be remembering that few months back, there has been a dharna in Jantar Mantar, Delhi.
Yeah.
Where they were actually silently protesting against the violence which was going on in the CHT area, where the local Aborigine people were like killed, mercilessly killed and hounded by these Islamist radical groups, who are not necessarily Rohingya, I would say, but yes, they are indigenous and they are Bengali speaking Muslims. That is how these native people identify them, not as Bangladeshis but as Bengali speaking Muslims.
So by and large, you have covered almost all the areas of the present, all the factors also of the present turmoil in Bangladesh and its implications in India. The so-called the Islamic welfare state, whether it comes up or it comes absolutely radical organization which rules Bangladesh, is a great issue. Because if it becomes absolutely a radical element, not a so-called Islamic welfare state, then we are having a neighbor who may become a trouble in times to come. If it is absolutely taken over by the radical elements and it becomes a totally Islamic radical state instead of Islamic welfare state, then it is a problem for India to a great extent. Now, I will only like to say that you as a student of the history as well as a research scholar have done a lot of work on this, and I think the people should know, our audience, our viewers should know that your word which I started, I'll end with that Bangladesh is indeed in the eye of storm. There's no doubt. These are your article I pick up from there. Bangladesh is indeed in the eye of storm. The question is, this needs to be washed by India, by intelligence agencies in India, and by the enforcement agencies in India to ensure that at a proper time, a proper response is given by us. If we just lie low and sleep over this, then this storm which blows somewhere there may affect badly India socio-economic conditions, as well as economic also, I say, as well as cause a lot of pressures on the available resources with India at present. With these words, I only, not only, I profusely thank Dr. Sanchita Bhattacharya for giving her valuable time to us and for having elaborated at length about the subject which was our concern in the recent past in India also, and some of the intellectuals have been thinking as to what is going to happen. And let's hope that we get some knowledge from here, and our agencies and our government and our intellectual and our non-government agencies, they all know that we are sitting very close to the place which is in the eye of storm. With these words, thank you very much, Dr. Sangeeta. Thanks, Sanchita. Thank you very much, and hope to see you in the next podcast sometime. Thank you indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for inviting me, sir.